Yeah. Hi. This is your old DM, and I've got a performance check here. We're going to talk about some stuff. It startled myself with the thing.
Yeah, you really did. You sort of just stumbled into the into the stream today. Most impressive. Hello. Oh man, what were we going to talk about, Lloyd?
We wanted to talk about introducing new characters into an ongoing campaign, which I think is a really interesting question.
It is a very interesting question. Now, Taylor, wonderful Taylor from our community who operate in, asked this question earlier, and I was going to reply to it, but I wanted to do a stream, and Lloyd said, "Oh, I want to jump on too." So here we are. Okay, so Lloyd, have you had any experience with bringing new characters into an already existing adventuring party mid-campaign?
I have not. Most of my campaigns up until Middleearth have not been long. I've had a real problem with online campaigns and keeping them going. That's like partly my own nature, where like I'm really enthused about something for like a month or two and then I kind of like drop off in interest. But also scheduling woes and stuff like that. So I've not run many long campaigns until Middleearth. So I haven't had that issue so far, but I have considered it because it's a real possibility in the Middle-earth campaign, which is will be on its 16th session, the next session that we do, which is quite long. And so when that comes back, you're fighting the Witch King, and there's a very good chance of someone dying. And we've had 16 sessions of these characters getting to know each other, and like there's a really good dynamic. But then what do you do if someone dies? It's not the player's fault and they want to still play, which is great. But then how do you like introduce a character without it being like, you meet this guy and he's going to come with you now?
Yeah, and I'm as you can imagine, really worried about that. I absolutely love and have loved playing in Against the Shadow, but we have got ourselves into we're going to fight the Witch King, and our characters don't know that you can't. Well, you can't kill him. You can't stop him. You just can't, because unfortunately we've all decided to be decidedly male into the entire adventuring group, which is going to shoot us in the foot, as it should.
Very Tolkien-esque though, you know?
Oh god, yeah, don't even get me started. But
aristocratic males everywhere.
And I'm really intrigued about it because there's been, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to stand on a pedestal or anything like with my character in particular, but as my character's the one I know best, that's the example I'm going to give. Like throughout the Lord of the Rings campaign we've been playing with Lloyd, it's kind of been building up that Faroth has kind of like a duty, and he has like in the future of Middle-earth, like he is essentially stepping into the massive shoes that Aragorn left behind when Aragorn, spoiler alert, died in this particular timeline. So does it frighten you, Lloyd, that if I were to die, or are you say this is 16 sessions in?
Yeah, I'm apprehensive about someone dying. Now, I don't pull punches.
I know you don't.
I would deal with the consequences afterwards, and I wouldn't think about it in the game, because that's, I think, a really dangerous headspace to be in. Like, oh, I can't kill them because then someone will be upset the character is dead and yada yada yada. And I think that's like something that can make games less exciting. I think if there's no, I've talked about this a lot with you. If there's no danger of death, then why do the fight at all? So yes. I am apprehensive because the Witch King is the Witch King of Angmar. He's like Sauron's right-hand man, possibly the most powerful being on Middle-earth that isn't Sauron. And you guys are going to try and fight him. And you're not weak, but, so I am apprehensive of someone dying, and I don't know what we will do if that happens. I imagine one thing that definitely will happen is that there will be like a funeral and like a whole episode devoted to like that character going, make a thing of it. Like it's been 16 episodes and it's been 16 sessions with this character. You can't just be like, oh, they're dead, here's someone new. That's like such a disservice to everyone, I think.
I agree.
So I definitely think you need to like have a funeral or whatever it might be. Have like a scene where everyone tells a good story about the person or something. With the character. Something like that, where you can kind of like celebrate the character and then put them to rest, and then that player, obviously, at the end of the session that they die in, can start thinking about a new concept, something that fits and something that makes sense for them to bring into the campaign at this late stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, my thoughts on it, because I I have had many characters go out in campaigns that I've run in the past, and to the point where it became a bit of a joke. And I've been a player and watched people go quite regularly. I was playing in a 2-person campaign, so me and my mate, and my other mate was DMing. My mate got through, and I'm not even lying, 4 player characters throughout the entirety of that campaign whilst I was still on my same character.
Wow.
So my character started getting like these horrible visions and guilt sort of attacks about why is everyone he ever meets like dying, and constantly meeting other people, but then being hesitant about going adventuring with those people because he feels like he's a bit of a death magnet. And which is amusing, but also it got to the point where the lethality of the game was actually starting to make it a bit of a joke. But at the same time, that has to be present, and it was just really unlucky for that particular player to go through 4 characters in a campaign. Like it was absolutely nuts. I'm really selfish about it. I don't really think about I do worry that my players would be upset, but I have the good fortune of playing with great players who I know would take it and they wouldn't be salty about it. They wouldn't like, you wouldn't be like, you wouldn't go away crying, would you, Lloyd, if I killed one of your characters?
Roaring and cheering, I think.
Absolutely. And that means I'm very lucky. I know that there are people out there that do get very attached to their characters to the point that they do get annoyed when their characters go. But I would personally, I then have to worry about doing the acrobatics involved with introducing a new character into a campaign, which is not easy, especially when you have an already existing dynamic and you're introducing also has to have a decent reason to go with them. Because I'll go back to the campaign I was talking about, that 2-player campaign. My character kept having to find reasons with that person to convince people to go with him. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
and I know I'm using an extreme example, but it's still something you have to go through. And I think it's just about acknowledging that storytelling platform, sometimes you can't tell the perfect story. I don't think. Sometimes you just got to accept.
No, you have to
running
realize
a game.
It's a game, exactly. It's a game that you're playing. Like to many of us, it's more than that. Like to me, it's unquestionably more than just a game, but it is also a game. Like that means that you can lose. And so like, I have lots of like lofty ideas about what RPGs are and how powerful they can be and stuff like that. But I also think that like it's a game, and you have to like sometimes suspend your disbelief, and you have to like think about the story, like not always fitting perfectly if you want everyone to have fun, and that's one of the key aspects of playing.
Agreed. And often you'll find that allowing things to just let the dice fall as they may, often that will create opportunities that you wouldn't have made up if you're just trying to tell a story. And I know that sounds really hippie, but let the story happen, man.
For sure.
And I think it's valid. So I think we should probably talk about maybe some things to maybe some tips to introduce new characters into existing games. But first, I think we should address some stuff in the chat.
Yes, certainly. So we have a bunch of people here. Jeff Doty is here, and he says, "I only had one time where I've had to introduce a new character into the party. Honestly, I didn't go well. It was really difficult to introduce them clearly, and the party dynamic never recovered. I was pretty new to the hobby at the time, but it's still something that I find really difficult to do well." Yeah, I think it's really difficult to do well. I do have like some ideas on how you can do it, but we'll just read through the comments first and then get to that, I think. Carol says, "Hey."
Sure.
Hello, Carol. How are you? She says, "I'm a little concerned. I just joined an established campaign as a new player and new character, but I'm playing with good friends, and they're very encouraging." Good. This is Lionel's campaign, I think, the Middle-earth campaign. Lionel's fucking whopper GM. He ran one of my favorite games ever. We ran, unfortunately, a short Warhammer Fantasy campaign, just two of us, and it was incredible. And I really felt in danger for my life all the time. And then Rory says, "Hey, everyone." More hellos. M6Del Shadow says, "One of my ideas of replacing a character, having an NPC become a PC." That's exactly what I'm going to explain in a moment. That's great. Cool. And Rory says, "I'm watching Community, and the first D&D episode just came on." Coincidence? I don't think so. I love Community. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
I love it.
Great.
Love it so much.
Yeah.
6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah.
They never got it, sadly.
So Sixtail
okay.
Hit the nail on the head, I think, with what I was going to suggest for this problem, and that is, if you have a long-running campaign, you should have long-running NPCs. And so it would make sense, since they're established as characters who are maybe on a similar scale to the players. The players have a good understanding of why that character is around and whatnot. Those are a good place to go. So, like, for example, in Middle-earth, Erlandor has been with you for quite some time, and he, like, is an effective warrior, and he, like, fits the world very well. Like, he would be a good replacement character. There's also... not in that. In Nico's Game of Thrones campaign, we're a house, so we've got lots of hangers on and stuff. But notably, we have an Aegon with us. An Aegon. He's not Targaryen. He is Aegon. Fuck me dead. What's his name? Valerion. That's what it is. Which are like an offshoot of the. An offshoot of the Targaryen tree. And so he's been with us a long time, and he would make an excellent sort of NPC replacement. But there's also soldiers in our forces, like guards and knights and stuff, that because it's easier when you have a house and an established place. But the Maester, for example, would make a good character too. But I think that's a really good call, like thinking about the NPCs in your world and like NPCs that fit and trying to deal them in kind of.
See, I'm afraid I'm going to have to oppose that. I don't think I would do that. I think it's a good solution, and I think if it works for you, then definitely do it, and I'm not discrediting it at all. However, I don't think personally I would do that. And my only reason for doing that is because it isn't something... I fear that would be a challenge for the player to become as invested in that particular character, if you understand what I mean, Lloyd. Like, if you turn around to me once Faroth died and says, "Oh, you can play Erlander," as much as I like the NPC of all of his different flaws and quirks, I personally don't know how I'd feel about that. Like, I don't know. I think... And I'm not saying, every character is sacred to the player. I don't mean it like that. I just mean that...
I think I know what you mean. Like, you're not as invested, right? Because you didn't make the character, you didn't come up with the concept, and so it's kind of harder for you to, like, become as invested in this character as the one that you, like, possibly slaved over creating,
Yeah. And I don't mean to sound, like, precious about it. I say, no, because, like, don't get me wrong, it's a really good solution. And I think the idea of including an NPC, or rather an element of the existing story, and creating a character from that is a good idea, because it invests them in the story. It's to bring up my latest example in Lawkeepers. Tim had to leave the campaign, and Barker ever kindly volunteered to jump in. But it left me with the difficult decision as to, well, what like what is he gonna be? Like, he's missed the beginning. Like, how is Barker going to, or his character going to be invested when he's not had the same experience as you guys have? You don't have the problem with wondering, oh, well, why should we do this? Because that happened for you in session 1, or at least 2 or 3. So I had to, and the original idea, I don't think I've ever told you this, the original thought from Tim was like, oh, Barker could come in and he could be Ezekiel Raylan's mate, like his former comrade in arms. And I thought, yeah, maybe, but like, isn't, like, to me, that's a bit of a stretch. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, oh, his second cousin shows up. Yeah. Oh, it's
like Ezekiel Raylan. Yes, that you do, like, when you first playing and your character dies, and then you just like bring his twin along, you know?
Right, and it's not exactly that, but I thought it's a little too close. I don't want him to be another Marshall, so I thought, no, screw this. I'm going to tie Barker's character into the story that you've yet to discover, because luckily you still hadn't met the Lawkeeper, you hadn't met Weaver, so it was really, really fortunate that was there for me to use. So it was still an existing element that had to happen in the campaign, or that was going to happen in the campaign, but it wasn't as closely linked to you guys as, say, an NPC that you already know, if you get what I mean.
Indeed, yeah. I think, yeah, it's a tricky one. I do like the NPC thing for a number of reasons, but I also think that it's harder to be invested. So maybe you're right. I think it could be a good call to just like, well, it's always a good call to like talk to the party openly, out of character, and to the GM about what you think should happen, right? You shouldn't, I don't think, in any situation, go off and then just be like, here's my new character and here's who he is or she is. I think it's like a group thing, you know?
Agreed.
Particularly if you're in it for so long. Finding a way to tie them into the world is great. Like, Card fits the world really well, and he like fits the mission really well, which is great. So that's really important if you want them to come on, especially on a mission that's like heroic, you know, like Lorekeepers, which is like save the world, or like Middleearth, which is like save the world. Like it can't just be like in Isklof, any motherfucker with an axe is a player character, you know?
Absolutely, yes, like, agreed.
Literally anyone, you know, it can be like a butcher who maybe has once killed a man. That could be a player character, you know? They're not heroes or whatever. So I think it's actually easier in settings that are less heroic.
Yes.
You know, that are more realistic and gritty. While in sort of hyper settings like Middle-earth or like the Nine Kingdoms or whatever you're talking about, the character has to be unique and has to like have something special about them in order to travel with these other characters who all have something like that. So you really have to kind of consider what that is, I think, you know.
That's genius point, Lloyd. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is completely dependent on the setting. You're right. Literally, you could pay someone in Isklof and they would happily go with you. Like, that's all they would need. Or yeah, and it's much closer to real life. So it's like you meet this person who happens to need to go with you as well. Like, that just happens on everyday life, you know. So yeah. But at the same time, that is also crippling for campaigns like Middle-earth and Nine Kingdoms and things like that, because of what you say. Like, everyone has to have some kind of thing. Everyone has to have some kind of something that they're adding to the overall.
Yeah, like think of the
think
of the Fellowship, right? Like, Aragorn is the returned king. Legolas is the son of a king. Gimli is like the blood of a king. Boromir, you know, is the son of the steward. All of the hobbits, you know, are hobbits, which is like fine. That's their own thing. Except for Frodo, he's like descended from hobbit nobility, and Gandalf is like one of 5 wizards that exist.
Yeah.
So all incredibly special characters, all snowflakes, in a major way. like none of them are just like a guy, you know, except for maybe Sam, I guess, you know, Merry and Pippin, like, and so you tend to have and it's normal in most fantasy, you know, I would say most fantasy books that I've read, the main character is special. They're chosen, or they're unique, or they're, you know, special, powerful, whatever it is, because it's like a common sort of trope. It's the monomyth, you know, and so you need to have those kind of characters for those kind of settings. So it's important that you consider that, and you don't just make. I also think that class really matters in this situation. So like when you first make a party, right? Everyone picks what they want to pick, and that's fine. Right? Everyone just plays what they want to play. But then 16 sessions in, the party has established themselves as being really good at some stuff, you know? Like the party that you have in Middle-earth, for example, can track a flea across a fucking desert, right? Like with you know, you have like tracking and ranger skills beyond compare. It's just unstoppably good at that sort of stuff. And so if you were making a new character, you probably shouldn't make a ranger as well, a wanderer, because they have that pretty down, you know, and they wouldn't need you. They wouldn't have any reason to bring you along. You're not offering anything in terms of your skills, you know. So that's something to consider as well, I guess.
I mean, I was going to say Middle-earth might be the only exception where you could come in as like someone's brother or sister, because I don't know, it just seems to work like with Faramir and Boromir and the like. But sadly, I've already established that Faroth is an only child, so that's that. That's that problem dealt with. But no, that's a super really good point. I hadn't even considered that, to be honest. Thinking of the actual mechanical party setup as well. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. We're trackers up to the bloody nape. We got 3 martial characters and 1 wizard, so it'd be interesting to see like a rogue or something, or a druid, or I don't know, like just something.
Yeah. So like in Middle-earth, you could, you know, it would be nice to have a different culture as well. So we have lots of men. It would be nice to see a female character, for example, and it would be nice to see a culture that's not represented. You know, like we have a dwarf. I wouldn't be keen on an elf coming in. I would like, if somebody wanted to play an elf, I would be fairly against that. But that's again why it's important to like discuss that with the whole group, because in the Middle-earth that I've been running, you know, elves have been Middle-earth elves. We don't have any elf player characters. We had one for a brief time, and then we had Taylor come in as an elf as well. But those characters were like really powerful because they were short, and because elves, in my mind, in Middle-earth are like way beyond superhuman. So I would, you know, that would be like an opening statement from me. Okay, you want to make a new character, you can't play an elf. You shouldn't play an elf unless you have a really crazy good concept. But you know, you want to look at like the party makeup, and you want to see what you can add that will bring conflict, and what you can add that will tie you to the rest of the group. I think because character conflict is so important. Yesterday I played in a game that Nico ran where I played Rugga, who was like a barbarian champion name man. And he hated magic, like most people in Iscloth hated magic. And we had a witch in our party, and he wasn't happy with that. And so she would talk, and he would like spit every time she talked to ward off her magic. He threatened to kill her. And like, it didn't come to PvP with her, but it could have. But there was just like this really nice sort of tension throughout the game. Now, I don't think you should come to a campaign with that kind of character. But the conflict that you had with that Faroth had with Aragorn, and which I think is still kind of there, it was great. You know, really, really powerful stuff. So think about that. What you can bring in to kind of like keep the inter-party dialogue interesting, and what you can bring in to make them talk to you. You know, like they all know each other. They've been adventuring together for 16 sessions.
Yeah.
Why should they be asking you questions and getting to know you? You know.
So how much on the player's shoulder should it fall on to ensure that the character integrates into the setting, and how much is it on the DM if that's the case then?
I would say that it is, it's probably 50% DM, and then 33% player, and 33% the rest of the players, which is more than 100. 25 or 25, I guess. I think the other players are really important in this discussion. When you, like I said earlier, when you first make your characters for a campaign, you're just like, I want to play this thing, and everyone's like, yeah, that's fine. But I think that you have to really think more about it when you get to the point that you're past 10 sessions. You want to be like, okay, what kind of character would fit well here? You know, what would fit well for everyone? You know, why are we having this character? How can we like engage with them? I think the players need to think about that, not just the player who's making the character, but the whole team, you know? And
yeah, absolutely.
I think the DM's job is to like listen to what they're saying and like inform them, but then also once that character concept has been made, to like chat to that player and like come up with an appropriate like background and a reason that they're in the place and a reason that they want to go on the quest and stuff like that. I'm generally not keen on like writing backgrounds for my characters. I don't do it. And I don't encourage, certainly don't expect players to do it because I don't think it's necessary. I like to discover stuff about my character as I go.
Yeah.
But I think in this particular situation, everyone else's background has kind of been talked about in some extent. So I think you need to just have an idea, you know, in your mind of who they are.
That's absolutely spot on. Yeah, you definitely need a push. And I think, like, I'm going back to this because it's the one that I have evidence of, and it's the most recent one with Lawkeepers, is Session 4, Chapter 4, The Telling. That particular session basically focused on the character of Card. It began with a flashback showing his background. It explored the fact that his father had possessed had been once a lawkeeper. It was also the session where you were finding out about the lawkeepers, and in a combat that was about that had been experienced by his father and was part of his background as well. So it was that entire session was catered to bring that character to the forefront, to show that he was relevant, to show that he had something to give, and to show that he could work with the other players and was fighting for the same thing, really. So I think, like when a character leaves and you say, Lloyd, about the funeral, you spend an entire session on that character sending them off. You should do exactly the same thing when you bring in a new character. It shouldn't be, oh, you just meet this dude and like you decide, oh, we can come with you. You know, there should be like a real effort, like you say, from everyone to ensure that they make their stamp on the league. That is the prerogative of both the player and the DM in particular, I think. And also, I mean, let's not forget that, like we keep going back to, this is a game. At the end of the day, everyone knows what the situation is. Everyone knows that at some point that character is going to come with them. It's okay to show like resistance in character, but as a player, obviously be mindful of that they're going to come with you and don't show the resistance that your characters do.
Such a good point. So I am a method role player, I guess, right? So like when I get into my character, I play them, and that's what I was doing yesterday with Ruga. And like all of the players I played with yesterday, like I knew them and I knew that they would be fine with the situation, you know? And it was a one shot as well. So I knew that I could play this bastard who like doesn't care about other people's opinions and yada, yada, yada. But if it's a campaign and someone has like recently lost a character that they played for 16 sessions, they come in and your character's an arse to them, and makes it very difficult for them to join. Like you can give them a grilling or whatever, but you still have to be cognizant of the fact that that player is trying to get back into the game. You have to fucking help them with that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it is, end of the day, you have to look out for people. It's like if you're in like a friendship circle, okay, and someone new is there for some reason, okay. Now, the polite thing to do and the done thing to do is not ignore them and share in-jokes with the people that you know. It's to be inclusive and to bring them in. So it is, like we keep saying, we keep hammering home, it is everyone's job to ensure that they have a smooth ride in, even if it isn't smooth in the story. Though I really like your point about the method role-playing there, Lloyd. That's pretty rad.
We have an explosion of people in the chat.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's answer some questions and talk to people in the chat.
Good God, where did we get to?
So the last one was RP Geography saying about community. So he then says, "I haven't had to bring anyone in ever. I guess I'm not killing enough people." Well, it'll happen. It will happen, and it's best to be equipped to know how to deal with it, because, like, in early games that I've played in, like, it's just been disastrous, absolutely disastrous.
I ran my home group. We played this like city sort of beer and pretzel game. You know, we started a D&D campaign maybe a year ago. It didn't last too long. The first session, they tried to steal a warhorse, and the warhorse fought them. Like, they tried to steal it, and it was resisting, and it bit one of them, and then one of them hit it. And then the warhorse, which does 2d6 damage with its hooves,
oh my God,
stood up and just immediately killed a level 1 character. Trampled his brains to death. And it was 40 minutes into the session.
In fact, this the campaign I was talking to you about before with us, the 2 players, I was playing, and this is one of my favorite D&D characters of all time, who I think it's in some regards still exists in my D&D creations even to this day. This character's called Fade. He is an amazing assassin, and I was super proud of him. He was just really cool. And his tactics as an assassin is want to do is that when it comes to a fight, he disappears. And Batman systematically takes people out, he's doing cool takedowns from the shadows. Now that's really cool and everything, but it does mean that whoever the other character is, it means that if the enemies can't see Fade, they will then instantly try and attack the other target.
Right.
Now, my other friend, bless him, to this slightly and said, "I want to play a bard." And I was like, I don't want to be that guy, man, but maybe not be a bard. Maybe someone a bit more. I was like, to be anything, just be someone that can, defend themselves a bit better. Yeah. And this wasn't 5th edition bard, this is 3.5 bard, which couldn't protect themselves to save their lives. So he just got flattened in the first combat. Oh my goodness me. So it goes back to that mechanical thing, sort of seeing what you need for the adventuring group as well. And it was partly my fault, but my character was there first. Meh. I'm going to pull my toys close to my chest now.
Right. Yeah.
So Carol says, actually, I joined that one at the beginning. Love it. But one that Andre Martinez is running is also a cool campaign. Oh, okay.
I often see a pretty unnatural line of trust built into meeting new party members because of the meta knowledge that the character is a PC. Should this be avoided? Distrust seems natural but slows down. That's a really good question. And that's kind of what we were talking about, the line between conflict and knowing that this person wants to play the game. It's a hard one, I think. What I don't like is that the character comes over and everyone's like, "Hey, how are you? Why don't you come on our adventure?" Because it just doesn't make any sense. You don't know this person from Adam, and it doesn't make any sense. Why would you trust this person in a combat situation? It doesn't make any sense. So I think you need to do an interview. You're an particularly in Faerun, if you're an adventuring party, people basically work together. You can be okay, what can you bring to our table, kind of thing, But in Doorkeepers, I would really find it hard to come up with a new character concept. I would manage it, but I would really struggle, I think.
It does terrify me. I know we keep having this conversation about death. For our conversations about character death, see earlier in this stream or every other stream that me and Lloyd ever do, consequences, blah blah blah. But yeah, it does. Because I can't imagine you being a different character. Guess that's just down to me. That's my issue, not the game's issue and not the player's issue. But I don't know. We've come so far. What would we do? What would we actually do? I'm curious. What would you be, Lloyd? Just out of interest.
I would probably consider being an elf, probably, or someone from Freedom Salvation would be my other option. Like someone who has had everything taken from them from Advent, and that would be my approach. Someone who is like already an enemy of Advent. So like maybe the elf makes that sense, but somebody from Freedom Salvation, their city has been destroyed, and they would like have seen Kilgannon, and then would have like decided, these are the people that I'm going to follow. And maybe he's like a squire or something. He's not even, he got like squire for Card or something for a while. He's not like a hero yet, something like that.
Yeah,
probably.
Okay. I hope we never get to that stage, but it is always a possibility.
Not a Dragonborn. I can be certain of that.
There's only two.
I'll play Weaver.
You could play him pretty well, I reckon, actually. But you'd do all right as Weaver, but you'd feel weird playing Weaver, though, wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. He has way too much knowledge that I don't have, and I wouldn't want to, because he's like a major plot character, I wouldn't want to play him. I would play a different NPC maybe, but I don't think I'd play Weaver. Yeah. Maybe I'd play a dwarf. I haven't seen any dwarves. I haven't seen any dwarves anywhere.
No, you haven't seen any dwarves. They are there, but no one's gone to look yet.
Yeah,
which is fine. If every other session I'm like, this is a weird mountain range over there, and you're like, yeah, okay,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, let's see. I think that takes some pretty good players. Carol says. I suspect I'll be just part of the party. I cannot read anymore. I think that it takes some pretty good players. I suspect I'll be just part of the party as fast as we can make it seem somewhat natural. I played with them once so far. Yeah, I think it takes time, and I think that like you can't expect the established group to like warm to your character within 10 minutes. It should take a session or two, and it should take you to like save their lives or like to prove yourself before they start to like warm to you, I think.
Absolutely, I completely agree. RPG Geography says, but wouldn't using an NPC really restrict what the new player can do with it? Not a problem for me personally, but I have loads of players that would probably not like that. I guess it depends on the NPC, really, doesn't it? I mean, like Lloyd quite rightly said about Weaver from the Lawkeepers, like Lloyd would be restricted if he decided he wanted to play Weaver because that particular NPC has knowledge beyond what has been discovered in the game. So it would depend. A really well-loved NPC, like, I don't know, if... I'm just trying to think of an example now. Someone from the Middle-earth game, maybe.
Major NPC?
I was thinking major NPCs, but I was like, Elrond? And I was like, no one can play Elrond.
One of the issues with Middle-earth is many of the major NPCs that you have met have been like major characters who are like kings or emperors and elf lords. Other than that, like you've met like a couple of people. The first settlement you've really been to that wasn't Elven has been Anumanas, and that's like all of Faroth's people. So there was a couple of people there. I can't remember their names now. The state of me, I can't believe it. But
there's
met,
that
the warrior you spoke to, and in the room when you had some drinks with. Like, there's options there. I think if you're going to play an NPC, it's hard. It is really hard. It works. It would work really well in the Game of Thrones game that I talked about because Aegon has been with us all this time, but he hasn't been at the forefront. He's just been with us, and occasionally we'll talk to him, whatever, but he's not too well established as what he does, So there's freedom there. He like fits the story perfectly, but there's freedom for the player to kind of decide which way to go with the character. Like, it's been established that he's not a great warrior, so you probably wouldn't become, a knight, but you might play him as like a rogue or like not a maester, but like, somebody like that. Some like a mastermind rogue who's very good at speaking or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think with it's about aligning, like we were saying before, aligning motivations, and as long as their motivations align with the other parties, I think it's fine. I think with Game of Thrones, you have a slight advantage with some character archetypes from Game of Thrones, anyway. For instance, if one of the characters has sworn an oath, for example, like that's a big deal in Ice and Fire. So you don't really care who you're traveling with in Ice and Fire if you're going to swear. And okay, here's an example: Brienne of Tarth and Podrick. Okay, Podrick gets told to go with Brienne of Tarth. Brienne of Tarth doesn't want him to go with her. So, but he has committed himself to her, and she has sworn an oath to go and do this thing and find the Stark sisters or whatever. Like, so instantly, that is, even though they don't want to be in each other's company, and aside from any other situation, they wouldn't be in each other's company. They are thrust together because of situations, because of motivations that they separately have, and they're put together. So, yeah, I guess
other things about Westeros, all the games that I've played have had like a hierarchy, so there's a lord, or there's somebody in charge of the party, somebody who's like highborn or something. And so it's easy for that person to acquire followers, and like the players have equal footing, but like the characters don't. And I actually think that's super helpful when you're role playing. Now, I like to play the person in charge whenever possible, but I think it really helps to, firstly, for role play reasons, I think it's really powerful to have like a hierarchy. But secondly, I think it's like really good when you have lots of players, and like there's 7 players in the Game of Thrones game we play in. And that can get pretty chaotic, and so it's good to have somebody with who the book stops, So like when it comes to crunch time, my character has to make a decision, and if there's an argument or whatever, or a discussion about what's to be done, eventually it comes to me to make that call, which is for me a blessing and a curse. Like I love it and I hate it, because I hate making hard decisions, but I love making hard decisions,
And I think, oh, sorry,
no, please.
Okay, I was just going to say, because, and that's I think the defining thing. I think with Game of Thrones, I think with Iscloft, to some extent, Lord of the Rings, there are hierarchies where player characters are expected to follow orders. Whereas in D&D, you find a lot more mavericks and snowflakes that are sort of just doing their own thing. They're sort of out for their own ends, really, and their own motivations, which is cool, and that's what makes the D&D characters look really flavorful, I suppose. But at the same time, it then gives you the problem, well, my character wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Whereas in Iscloft or in Game of Thrones, you're like, no, your character would do that because your lord is giving you an order, and this is the world you live in. Yeah.
I was going to say it works really well in Iscloft, and it's really easy to bring new characters into Iscloft. You could be someone who they defeated, and you're a thrall now. You could be somebody who like sees them be successful, and you're just like, I want to be rich. I'll join you, because the motivations in Iscloft tend to be more selfish and less sort of grand. Motivations tend to be not dying, getting rich. And like maybe getting some land to retire on if you can manage that. So it's easier to tie characters in because their needs are less grandiose,
Jeff Doherty rightly says, although I guess that's not really just in regards to new PCs, RPG people in general seem a little overly welcome and trusting, which I've talked about before. People need to be a little more worried about heavily armed people, asking them like pushy questions and stuff. And
so
like
much. Yep.
Offering them like, this is the map to the sacred treasure, here it is, like I don't expect anything from you or anything, here's the information you need. Like, it's like, no, that's not how people work. That isn't people. I mean, some people are like upfront and kind and stuff, but I don't know, like
in 2 ways, right? So to me, if you're a man in Iscloft and these people come into your village and there's 5 of them and they all have like mail and swords, like those are lords. Those are people who are like very powerful, in the world. And so that NPC is going to say whatever they want to hear, because he doesn't want like his stuff taken from him or himself killed, and like I think that's important too. Like you often see it in D&D where like fucking shopkeepers are real mouthy with adventurers, How dangerous is that? Like, what are you doing? Fucking mouthing off like to a fucking level 15 wizard. Are you mental? You know? Like, just be nice to them. They're terrifying.
Meteors, raise dead, blah blah blah. Why aren't you more afraid? Good point. Good point. Carol says, right, and if you had been there, it wouldn't have been too bad, but I haven't played with this group and know nothing about the NPCs. That's fair enough. RPG Geography says, I agree, Jeff. That's why I really enjoyed your Vanguard game. The team fives the obvious reason for teamwork. The team fives the obvious reason for teamwork. I don't know what that means. Oh, the team gives the obvious reason for teamwork. Okay. Then oh god, I've missed the place, Lloyd. Where are we?
There's been 1,000 comments. It's great. We have loads of people watching. Thank you for watching. But we have like, you and I, Rob, have a tendency to go on tangents.
Oh, I don't know what you mean, Lloyd.
So here's a story.
I mean, now that you've said that, let me talk about this.
And so I feel bad for people in the chat because like they're saying excellent things, but by the time that we look at the chat again, we've talked about 15 different things already.
Okay, let's just go through all of it really quickly then, all the comments, and then we'll okay. Right, so okay, Jeff Dirty says, yeah, taking control of an NPC while clean, I'm not sure that I personally would want to do that. There's something about my character being uniquely mine that really appeals to me. Absolutely. Six Star Shadow says, good point, Rob. Thanks. RPG Geography says, well, Rob, it's Barker, so he just comes in and kills it. That's true. It does help if you have strong role-playing chops, and Barker definitely does have those. He kind of made that effortless for me. Like, to be honest, like that session wouldn't have worked if it hadn't been Barker. I suppose like Barker was. I was very fortunate to get him to fill in Tim's ginormous shoes. RPG Geography then says, but I don't want to sound dismissive. You set up a great plot and Weaver was an excellent character. I don't know what you were being dismissive about, RPG Geography, so I can only say thank you for complimenting my character, and don't worry about sounding dismissive. I'm continually dismissive of lots of things, so don't worry about it. Do you want to read some, Lloyd? Because
Yes.
I want to drink.
Yes. I don't know where we are, Rob.
That's a good point, says Jeff.
That's a good point, says Jeff. There we go. This is a conversation that absolutely has to happen out of character with the group. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that will happen. Different settings and levels is a good point too. The one character I've had to swap in one of my campaigns was at level 18. So when they died, replacing them was impossible. So like at that stage in the campaign, level 18, like
level 15 start point is my house rule. If you die and you're above level 15, you go back to level 15. That's or at least make them of a relative level to the existing players. So because otherwise it's unfair.
Yeah, I would definitely think, like for me, I struggle to think of characters in Faerun who are level 18. You know, I would say that Dritz is not even level 18 and he's amazing, you know. Like I would say that Elminster is like level 20, you know, or like fucking John Irenicus from Baldur's Gate, he's like level 20, you know, like that's like so powerful. And like, where are you going to find someone like that? You know, that would be the struggle for me. But I am fascinated by this thing that there are, you know, we've done this a lot about why aren't you more afraid? When you're a level 18 fighter, you can fight an army, you know? So where are you going to find people like that? Would be my main question. And the main problem I would have with that is like, where are you finding these people? Like,
but if they can get to that point, then they must exist.
Sure, no, they do. They do.
Yeah,
but it's just a question of like, where are they, and how do you get them? And like, if they're level 18, what are they doing, waiting around for you to find them? You know, like
they were waiting in the tavern with a big exclamation mark over them.
Because like level 18 to me is like a red wizard or like, you know, a fucking Shadow Thief Master or something, you know, like people who have like empires beneath them. And so, God, I would love to play a high level game. I've never really done it since the Gate game. You have to run.
Well, if you're patient enough. Well, I'm thinking that Lawkeepers will end up being a high level, I think, by the end, to be honest. Like, so we'll see. M6L Shadow then says, with Middle-earth, I think the new character could be anyone that has heard of these heroes who wants to join their cause in light of terrible loss inspired by their heroism. I think Middle-earth has the advantage of the fact that Sauron is affecting everyone. Now, whether everyone believes that or not is the question, but the thing with Middle-earth is that there is the one fight. It is the fight against the Shadow. So absolutely, that unites all different types of people. So yeah, I think that's a very good point. Yogos did a big old troll poop, I believe. I took a poop and it was purple. I should be concerned. Yeah, you should. See ya. I just took control of your admin there, Lloyd. I do apologize.
Yeah, you're my enforcer.
I am. I'm bloody your fist. So, Alan, hey man, good to see you, dude. He says, ever consider a multi-generational game? Or that's a really good idea, actually. Or why do PCs never have families? Where are their parents, siblings, and loved ones and children? Generally, because they die, I think.
Great point, Alan. So good.
Very good point. I love the idea of the multi-generational game. I mean, look at the Star Wars. That's a multi-generational saga. Lord of the Rings is as well.
The Game of Thrones game that I play Lord Maegor Belgrave, and then I have 3 children in the party. I have Dennis, who is Balin, who is my oldest son. I had Taylor, who was Adriel, my oldest daughter, although she is out of the campaign, unfortunately. And then I have Chex, who plays Balin, who is a bastard that I took in when he was a baby. We recently discovered that he's actually Aegon Targaryen, which is pretty great. But yeah, so I have these children right in the game, and it's a weird dynamic and a really fucking fun one to explore. Like, because as a lord, your word is law, but then also these are your children, and so like you have just like unstoppable affection for them, you know. And like this character that I play is like just so brutal, just has no fucking time for anyone giving him shit.
He's like, horrible.
He's horrible, you know. He's a very effective lord, but he's not a good guy. But he has just infinite patience when it comes to his kids. And like Balin, Dennis's character, is such a fuck up. Like he's a disaster. He's like riddled with like STDs and like just like always just drunk and like whatever. And so, you know, if that wasn't Maegor's son, he would have had him executed a long time ago. And I think that that's a really cool dynamic. It makes for a fun sort of story.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also point to your Drow games as well, Lloyd. I mean, that in itself, like the entire culture is based on the family tree and stuff of the Drow and stuff. That was really cool. It just says, just getting here, but what about a character being saved and starting to travel with a party? Kind of like that kid that just follows you around and you can't get rid of them. Yeah, like I suppose like a life debt or something. Your Chewbacca.
Yeah, I think that's not a... Well, I mean, certainly in Iscloft it could happen. Like I had talked about a thrall, you know, but even if it's like a case that you save someone's life and then they're like grateful to you, they could swear an oath to serve you until, you know, they've repaid you, you know. And then by the time they have repaid you, they're probably like you know.
Yeah, or they've repaid the favor, yeah, absolutely, and saved the other person's life.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
Rory says, Subari would be fun. You could have the party wish for something and a djinn could appear.
I wish for another player character.
I love wishes. I have just fucking ruined my home group one time with a wish ring. Did I tell you this about the castle?
Yes, you have, but you should tell the audience because it's great.
So the game I run for my home group, like they're pretty experienced, but when we first started, they really weren't. And they found this ring of 3 wishes, and they. So I said you can activate it, but when you do, you have 1 minute of real time to make 3 wishes. And I told them before
That's clever.
That genies are very fickle. They they trick you and they take your words literally. So I warned them that, and then they were like, okay, I activate the ring. And I was like, beep, press the timer. And he was like, okay, I wish that like one of them had gone blind. I wish that he could see again. He had his own eyes back, but they worked. Okay, that was clear. Good one. And then the second one was like, I wish that we had something else. It was something, but they phrased it well. But the third one, he was like, I wish we had a castle. I wish there was a castle where our village was, and it was huge and real sturdy. It had like massive walls. Where our village was, it was real sturdy, like so sturdy, really big. Wish it was there. And the time ran out, and I was like, okay, cool. And then like, like out of the ether, basically, a castle like fell from the sky on top of their village, and just like this massive impact. It was a Githyanki floating fortress from the astral plane that the genie had like brought into their world, and there was a castle where their village was, and it was very sturdy, you know. And they were like, huh, what? Huh? So like, just like flattened the village, killed everyone in it, like flattened the forest and stuff. And like they tell every time now that they come up to like somebody who offers them like a deal or whatever, they're very careful about phrasing now, you know.
I once wished for a genie, or a djinn rather. I wished that the djinn could never grant wishes ever again. I'm just thinking of that. That was a long time ago, but it was a really asshole move.
Such a dick
anyway. Yeah.
Okay, so I think if you're the player bringing in the new character, you have to consider what will drive that person to join the group. That's not the time to bring in a silent loner who never approaches anyone. Fucking good point. I've seen too many people try to be the lone wolf trying to join a party, and it forces an awkward, forced method like every single time. Same goes for the party. At some point, you have to just make it happen and justify it. There are better and worse ways, but at some point, you got to just make it work or drive a player out of the game or something. So the lone wolf archetype, first of all, it's dumb. Like you're in a team, like you have to be a team player. Your character, the lone wolf does not join a team. You know, doesn't join an adventuring party, doesn't join a mission with lots of other people. If they have the personality trait that they like to be alone, then they've chosen the wrong thing to get into chosen to get the wrong thing to get into the team adventuring business. You know,
I once played a lone wolf character, but the whole point was I know, but like I did it so I could have the arc of learning what it takes to become like part of a team or whatever. So I did that intentionally. What do you mean? Of course I did.
I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah, you are. I do. Admittedly, I do like playing a maverick every now and then. So, let's see. Did we finish Jeff's questions there? Because he had 3 in a row.
So
I can't.
We did. Yeah, you need to play a character who's like willing to join the team. Otherwise, like, just grow up, you know?
Yeah.
So then Carl says, my character was checked over pretty thoroughly and is still viewed with a bit of suspicion, as she should be. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, if you're joining an adventuring party that are established, they should be like, who is this person and why do they want to come with us? You know? Like, there should be suspicion. Like, if you are an adventuring party, you've probably made enemies at this stage, you know? And somebody powerful suddenly wants to join you, like that seems very suspicious to me.
It is suspicious, yeah.
You know, Carolyn says Lloyd and elf. Somehow that seems strange. I love playing elves actually. I'm playing an elf in Mike's Foundation campaign, and I love it. You get to be aloof. You get to be a fucking superior dick, which is great. You get to live forever, which is fantastic. And you get to like speak in weird arcane phrases, which I love.
And you know how much you hate Dragonborn, Lloyd?
Yeah.
I have that for Aarakocra, which Voice of Man has just suggested. I hate them. Oh. I hate them so bad. Like, at least the Dragonborn have like their culture and their sort of like cool bloodlines. Like Aarakocra are just fucking turkeys, man. No good.
I think you could probably make them interesting culture, but what I don't like is that they have a fly speed. Like, I just think that's like pretty game breaking to give a player character a fly speed at level 1. Or it can be, certainly. You know, lots of problems can be overcome by you just flying away. You know, or like just flying over a wall and into a compound or whatever it is. You know, I think it's pretty silly. I've had this thought for a while now. I want to run a monstrous game. Jake ran a goblin game recently, and I want to run a game where all the players are monsters, or like what I would consider monsters, which are not humans.
Yeah, I would. I've always wanted to run a game, and I've done something similar in the past where the player, it was a joke game really, but basically the players all played different monsters, and it was a one shot. Their job was to stop a party of adventurers from going through their dungeon. So it was just a classic dungeon crawl, but the other way around. They had to they were the ones setting the traps. Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
Okay, so
Jeff said, go ahead. I was just going to say, I think we should try and finish by 2. So should we just bomb through these questions? Or
yeah.
Okay. So Jeff says, something I'd like to do my own video on probably soon, but regarding Raga, party conflict, I do think there's an unnatural aversion to party conflict in campaigns. I'm running a campaign called The Alchemists, and that party is a wreck barely held together by necessity. It brings a lot to life to the group as long as it doesn't go to actual PvP killing. I love having it around. I completely agree. Lots of people are way too nice to each other in games.
Yep.
Yep. And then he also says, yeah, it is. That'll be our next one. Okay. I'll try and remember that. And then Jeff says, work together or die alone turns out to be a great reason to join and stay in a group. Absolutely. Lionel says, awesome chat, guys. The decision you made with Dan's character, priceless. I don't know what that means.
So,
Dan from Middleearth.
Yeah, from Westeros. We had this battle, and he had captured the enemy lord and his son, and I told him to kill them, and he didn't. And then those 2 characters managed to break free, and they almost escaped. And my character Maegor was almost killed because of it. And so after that, I gave him a stern bollocking. I told him that he has to obey my orders directly, or else I will deal with him. And then he wouldn't. He in front of a crowd, I wanted him to kill a prisoner, and he wouldn't do it. And so at the end of the session, we had to decide who was coming with us to Bravos and who was staying here to help Stannis. And so I picked Lionel's character, who was a knight, and then I just picked an NPC knight. And I told Thomas that he was staying with Stannis, and he was going to go bring glory to House Belgrave in the Battle of the Blackwater. And yeah, there was a weird situation because Maegor just would not have changed his mind, but it's a player and he has made a character, and it's 10 sessions in, and it was eventually from player pressure, my decision changed, not from character pressure, which I felt a little bit uncomfortable with, but it is a game in the end of the day, and everyone wants to have fun, but that's just me being too method.
Yeah, I suppose that's when the line gets drawn, I suppose. A really quick example, I was in a game of Only War, the Imperial Guard game from the 40k universe. And I don't know, we had this guy who was our what they call commissar, is that right?
Yeah.
And he was just, and they are assholes in 40k, but he took it to a point where it was kind of just it was uncomfortable because he was threatening the rest of our characters with shooting us in the head, which they are supposed to do in the game, but I don't know, he took it to a place that was just not cool. I mean, it sounds to me, Lloyd, I know you're a considerate human being and you're a nice person in real life most of the time. And, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that is a tricky one where the line is drawn.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because I felt like my character, and I hate people who do this in theory when they're it's not what character would have done. But Maegor has been established over 10 sessions as a person who does not take disobedience, and he will not tolerate it, And he needs absolute loyalty, and he has ensured he has that through very dubious means, And so this knight who swore an oath to serve him refused his orders. There's just no way that character would have been okay, I guess I've changed my mind and I won't send you away. But Dan is a friend of mine. He's a lovely guy, and I want him to have fun playing the game,
Yeah.
And all the players, want him to play the game, and it's a tricky one, They convinced me eventually. They convinced me eventually, not Maegor,
No, that's fair. Yeah, and Dan's a wicked player as well. Dan's just a powerhouse gamer. So Mike the Piper, hey man, our good friend, says if the party oh no, sorry, I've skipped one. Never mind. Jeff says, don't get me started on low-level characters mouthing off to high-level characters. Drives me insane for both PCs and NPCs. Mike the Piper, back to Mike the Piper, says if a party really likes an NPC and wants them to join them for a bit, how do you balance NPC and GM PC? If a party really likes, that's tricky.
GMPC is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
I generally try and avoid it.
Should we do another stream on that?
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to bed. It's very late. I'm sorry, everybody who is in the chat. It's very late here. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and we both have like actual jobs to get to in the morning. And we've already gone way over our expected 30 minutes. So yeah, we will stream again about this sometime soon, and maybe continue and talk about some of the things that were mentioned in the chat. But I think for now, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. I mean, me. Oh,
bollocks.